All right, ladies and gents, you know what time it is. It's time for dating advice from a stranger. Just giving you a heads up. I'm going to be rolling weed. So you can put your lighters away for right now. I'm going to be rolling weed during this segment. But, this is dating advice from a stranger. From the candid folks on Reddit who are kind enough to share the intricacies of their lives so I can belittle them without their knowledge or consent. So I appreciate that. This one here says, I, 28-year-old male, went to my girlfriend's 26-year-old female parents for Thanksgiving, and it went horribly. Might I also add that we are reading this together. I usually, to share a bit of the formula here, I read headlines and I try to judge based on who's writing the article and how the headline is worded, whether it's going to have something worthy in it. Sometimes I read them ahead of time, but most of the times I see a headline and I snatch that shit. So, excuse me, I logged into Reddit and I just scrolled down to the first thing. I'm in a subreddit called Relationships, and this is where it's coming from. So we're reading this together. It says, we've been dating for over a year and I've met her parents a few times, but just things like dinners. They live 4 hours from us, and this is going to be the first holiday we spent together. Her parents, her younger brother, and younger sister. We drove down Thanksgiving morning and we're going to spend the night there, then a few days at a resort. Her parents are blue-collar and church-going. I teach high school math. A bit of a cultural difference. My girlfriend made me promise not to get into a discussion with her dad on politics or religion. I was fine with that. I'm not going to change his mind. Her dad never hid the fact that he didn't respect me. He kept making comments about teachers indoctrinating students, Common Core, and other nonsense. No reason to get into a fight. I'm sure that's what he wants. I mostly ignored him, but he never let up. He was a total ass. Everyone was uncomfortable, and her family avoids confrontation with the dad. My girlfriend and her mom tried to change the subject, but they never stood up to him. I was done with this shit and told my girlfriend she could say something or I would be more than happy to. She begged me not to make a scene, so I didn't. I went upstairs, packed up, thanked everyone, and left. I told my girlfriend she should stay and get her parents or brother to drive her home. We don't live together. I went on to the resort and enjoyed my weekend. My girlfriend has been trying to apologize, but when I asked what she said to her dad when I left and what he said, she still never confronted him. He never took responsibility. Sounds like he continued to insult me after I left. I've never seen her so avoidant, and she's only like that around her dad. Her only solution seems to hope that he'll eventually lighten up. Too long didn't read. My girlfriend's dad hates me and she won't stand up to him. Do I tell her to stop being afraid of her dad? Or do I confront him and put him on blast? Or is this a learning experience that we're just not compatible? Ooh. This is actually a really good one. This is a very original, not so much original, but this is a unique situation right here. I see that you've played it on both sides, from the emotional response side and from the rational mind, calm, stoic side. So to answer your questions, do you tell her to stop being afraid of her dad? The answer is yes. But it's not so much about what you say, about how you say it. And this is all assuming that you're not ready to trash this relationship. Like, really, you should just, if this continues to, if this is going to be an ongoing thing, like if she's not going to abandon her dad and you're going to have to continue doing this shit year after year, I would kill this. Like, it's not about, it's a business decision at that point. It's not about really how you feel. But I was in a situation like that when I dated a girl and her parents didn't know she smoked weed. Mind you, this girl I was like 29 at the time. She was older than me. And it's like, I didn't really care whether she told her parents or not, but I definitely told her, I'm like, you should just fucking tell them. You are an adult woman. What the fuck? What your daddy gonna do? Oh, but in hindsight, she did have her parents like watching her kid, which I also thought she needed to stop doing. It's like, I could hear it in her mother's voice every night that she was just like worn down, like, and like knows that you should be doing this, but they thinking they help you out. And when we broke up, I told her parents that she smoked weed. Probably wasn't the best thing to do, and I'm aware of that, but I don't care. Like, she played around with me. Like, it's a long story, but, you know, it was definitely a response. I might have been petty. I might not have been, but that's neither here nor there. But you definitely should tell her that, like, look, you are fucking, how to say, you are 26 fucking years old. Why are you still, like, what are your parents doing for you where you won't stand up to them? What are you afraid might happen? Because I'm not about to sit here and be berated by a man and tolerate it simply because he's your father. Like, I understand that. I respect this man. I respect his household, but I'm a guest in your shit. You do not invite people over to your house to berate them unfairly. That's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. So yeah, I would definitely tell her, you need to suck it up and go through the confrontation and confront this nigga. And if he's incredulous, you need to move on with your life, sweetheart. That's what I would tell her. What's the next one? Do I confront him and put him on blast? I would say no. That solves nothing. This is one of those situations where you are a rational-minded person arguing in the league of insanity. Like, you know how it's like two conferences in the sports? You got the National League, you got the American League. Yeah, well, you got the Rational League and the Emotional League. And this dude is batting 600 in the fucking Emotional League. Okay? So, confronting him and putting him on blast is only going to end poorly. You even said earlier, you're not going to change his mind. That's why you said you'd avoid topics of religion and all that, because you know you're not going to change his mind. So, like, why do you think confronting him or whatever, like, would solve anything? You said he just wants to get you riled up. He just wants to fucking start you up. So, you know, you definitely got your limits. You got to draw your line in the sand. But if you really care about this girl and you know you're only going to have to deal with this motherfucker like a day or two out the year, you might want to, you know, it was only one night. You said you was going to stay a night there and then fucking go to the resort. So you probably could have put up with it for the night, knowing that that's all you're going to have to deal with it for. That's one way of looking at it. But, you know, what else? Is this a learning experience that we're just not compatible? See, I think that's jumping the gun. Like, to say that's a learning experience that you're not compatible is like you throwing your hands up. You're just like, fuck it, I don't care. Like, you know, if you're not going to stand up to your dad and blah, 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 like, you got to understand that's a big ask for some people. So if you going to request that, you have to give it some time. You have to, you know, because it's not going to be easy. And things that are hard generally take time because the payoff usually is commensurate with the amount of time and consistency you invest in it. Like the longer you stick to it, when you finally get it, is generally that much better. So you gotta be patient with that, because it's not easy to stand up to your parents, especially for some people, when especially in such a patriarchal household, which it sounds like what you describing. That's not heard of. Like, standing up to dad is something that's what? Like, that nigga runs his household, and if you got a problem with it, fuck you. Like, he don't give a damn if he a raging alcoholic or whatever. This motherfucker works. This motherfucker pays the bills. You said he was blue collar. So it's like, it's his way or the highway. It's not really negotiable. It's not open for discussion. And it seems like you know that based on what you said. So I would, let him run his mouth and just continue to be pleasant around him. Like, you could probably spin that in the sense that, like, you being pleasant knowing that you only have a short period of time to deal with him. It's just noise. It's not like he gonna come across the table and start throwing hands or some shit like that. Now, if that's the case, beat the shit out that old ass man. Cause that's beyond the line. But, if he just gonna blah 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 blah, try to pick a fight, like, that's too easy. You can't just okay, well, you get mad, so we're gonna, we're gonna slug it out, old man. Like, no. Like, nigga, if you really about that shit and you want to fight me, you got to be the one to make an ass of yourself to do it. Like, you got to really be the one where even your peoples is like, nah, you was wrong. And they, like, put their foot down. Because, like, a motherfucker got the right to be genuinely upset with you after that. Like, what the fuck? Like, you attacked my boyfriend. Like, why would you do that? Why did you think that's okay? Well, I don't know. I fucking hate you, Dad. blah, 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 blah. The only way to, like, in the game you playing, is really best to just not play. Like I said, you gotta see this guy once on holidays or whatever. You was only staying there a night. Like, suck that shit up. If he's not willing to get physical with you, suck that shit up, is what I say. You was done with this shit. You 28. I understand it's still at that point where motherfuckers can trigger you, but it seemed like you got something good with this girl. I wouldn't suggest you dump her because of her father. Like, you need to dig deeper and try to understand her family. Like, understand her family, see how this shit is, and, like, maybe it'll help you understand why she's avoidant of confronting him. Because it's like asking a construction worker or a contractor, like, I need you to build a 500-foot skyscraper. And it's like, well, we've never done that, and I don't really, we could try it, and it's like, but I'm afraid we're gonna, like, probably suffer casualties, blah 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 blah. Like, this is unheard of. What you asking? 500 floors for what? Try to build a Tower of Babel or some shit, So you got to be mindful of what you asking of people. And if she's even willing to do that, and she can demonstrate that she's willing to take steps to confront her father about you, then that's some real shit. Because take it from me, it is not easy confronting your parents. It's usually going to end bad. Because it's just like it's the audacity factor from the parents, and it's just like, how dare this youngster I raised you, I changed your diapers, blah blah blah, all this and that shit. Like someone didn't do that for them, and then they ended up growing up and developing their own mind and thoughts and ideologies and paradigms and all that shit. They can't get out of that mental battle. So overall, what I would recommend you do is be more understanding with your girl, because this is not something that's just gonna happen because you snap your fingers or because you got pissed off. Like, okay, that's the price you had to pay for, like, having your girlfriend, What would you do if you brought her to your parents' house and your dad snapped on her and she hit you with that ultimatum? You'd be like, what the fuck? I don't think breaking up is a solution. I don't think this is a learning experience. I think this is a learning experience that you're not compatible with her father. So, if anything, maybe the next time you see him, you could get one-on-one with him. Y'all could, like, go to the gas station and, like, pick up something. This could be orchestrated. And y'all try to hash it out. Like, with no one else around, just you and him. If you serious about this girl, you need to sit down and talk. Like, look, man, like, and don't make it like, you know, I just want to understand where you coming from, man. Like, I'm not trying to go there with you. Like, try to share something of your life or find some type of relatable point to get him to understand that why he might have a bias against teachers, that what you support different. You got values that don't clash with his, you know, and try to level with him. And if that don't work, then yeah, fuck him. You can kind of give it an ultimatum like, look, we either gonna cut this nigga out of the picture or I can't be with you, you know. But you got to give it some type of effort, but just don't give it too much effort. That relationship is not that fucking important at the end of the day. If it's really that unmanageable, discard that shit. But it sounds like you got something good. Like the family obstacle is something you can work through if it's manageable and it's understood. But like you can't expect her to just revolt on her dad because he was rude to you. Like it sounds like that's how he is in general. So I think you need to be more understanding and don't let him ruin something that could be potentially good for you because he's sick. So I think this was a real unique situation here. It was real fun to actually process this all the way through. Dating advice from a stranger, man. I hope it works out for you if you ever hear this. And, you know, best of luck, dude. That's a tough situation. Alrighty, guys. I just wrote a motherfucking stogie. This is a pretty ass blood. Like, this is one of the better woods. You gotta have a pair of scissors with these motherfuckers. I'm starting to see, like, the scissors is absolutely necessary. Like, and if you don't have scissors, make sure you have a backup bandsaw laying around so you can slice this bitch with absolute precision and get the quality smoke that I'm about to get. So you already know what I'm about to tell you. I'm firing up right now. You should too. Mm-hmm. Man, I just had to pause for a minute. This shit was, I actually was thinking about this girl at work. Yeah, I ain't go front. So this one is courtesy of The Messenger. Florida high school students walk out of classes amid transgender athlete investigation. So if you listen to this show even a little bit, even rarely, even once, you probably know how I feel about trans athletes in sports. And I'm glad that there's starting to be some actual, like, you know, people starting to pay attention and get this shit the credibility it deserved. Like, this was something we already knew. We already knew this from jump. And, like, this is where the line is clearly crossed. This is clearly stupid. So, let's read this. Oh, yeah, this is fucking excellent. God, I gotta take a picture of this. Hang on. No, this is marvelous. I wrote the shit out of this. I said, baby, I'll treat you badly. Where's my little stocking cap? My hair looks a mess right now. I would not put it on camera. I'm sorry, man. This is very uncharacteristic, but like this shit just so perfect. It's like the most satisfying thing right now. Mm-hmm. Damn, this bitch perfect. Here we go. One more. Oh, don't you dare. Don't you dare come loose. I will kill your family. Don't you dare. Gotta get one more. Oh, shit. Oh, no. Don't you ruin this for me. Here we go. Hold on, 3 seconds. All right. Oh, my God. This shit's so perfect. Okay. Ashtray. 4 Monarch High School officials have been reassigned while the state investigates whether they allowed a transgender student to play on a girls' volleyball team. Hundreds of students at a Florida high school walked out Tuesday after the school's principal, assistant principal, and multiple instructors were reassigned while the state investigates whether they allowed a transgender student to play on a girls' volleyball team in violation of state law. The students in Monarch High School in Broward County walked out of classes and onto the school's football field around noon, holding signs supporting trans rights and saying trans lives matter, according to a report by NBC News. Okay, so let me just take a second and dive deeper into this trans lives matter shit. This whole Lives Matter series, I've had enough. I've had enough of that shit. Like, things that matter don't really have to be talked about like that. Like, that's like walking around holding a sign and saying, oxygen matters. No shit. No shit. Trees matter. Oh, really? So profound. Like, what the fuck? Trans lives matter is just leftist, activist rhetoric that actually translate to nothing in English. It means nothing. It's just so you have a talking point to be able to stand outside somebody's business or in somebody's area and holler and shout like a fucking retard. Monarch High School District reassigned Principal John Cecil, Assistant Principal Kenneth May, Athletic Director Dion Hester, and Information Management Technician Jessica Norton to non-school sites during the investigation into whether they violated the state's 2021 Fairness in Women's Sports Act. Well, good thing Florida even has a Fairness in Women's Sports Act because we fucking need it. What the hell is an Information Management Technician? That sounds like a real bullshit title. Like, you know, it's like there's somebody at my job like to throw their title around. Like, I'm this, I'm that. Like, you know, like, motherfuckers got color-coded gear. So you know what a motherfucker is by looking at him. That shit was like that at Win. Like, you couldn't just be walking around in your street clothes. Everybody had a uniform. So when a motherfucker sees you on camera, before they know who you are or not, they know whether you belong there. So uniforms are important. We get that. But what the fuck is an information management technician? Like, for real, what even is that? The law prevents students who are born male from playing sports on athletic teams that are designated for women and girls. The law does not prevent people born as female from playing on men's or boys' teams. And why do you think that is? Because it doesn't fucking happen. And if it does happen, it's not going to last. I just watched this clip on YouTube. It was a short. I wish I could pull it up right now. It was some female in the Marines. Like, she was in a boxing ring. It was like in the Marines boxing. And she was up there challenging everybody, even including the men, and nobody can get in there and beat her ass. So this fucking one dude says, all right, fuck it, I'll get in there. And he get in there and beats the shit out of this woman. Like, not even really boxing, just wow, throwing mollywops. This nigga knocks her ass out cold, fucks her up. Oh, wow. I just seen a update said Henry Kissinger died at 100. Wow. Jesus Christ. Yeah, anywho. It just doesn't happen. Females do not cross over and play in men's realm because it is not feasible. It's incoherent. So that's why there's no law, because there's no reason to create that law. There isn't an action being committed that would warrant regulation by any kind of governing body. That's that. So, what the fuck? A family friend of the athlete at the center of the investigation said the student has yet to publicly identify as transgender and argued the situation had been seriously mishandled. What the fuck difference does that make? Like, whether you publicly announced it or not. So it's like, what? We gotta wait till you publicly announce it just in case you might change your mind and become non-binary by the fucking start of the season? Like, no. Like, when you tried to join a team with women on it, you outed yourself. What did it say right here? It's horrendous first on just a human level that the school would out somebody on an issue like this that's obviously incredibly sensitive, the friend said, according to CBS News Miami. More than 20 states, including Florida, have passed legislation barring people born male but who identify as girls or women later in life from participating in sports intended for biological women and girls, alleging that transgender athletes have an unfair competitive advantage if they were born male, which is kind of fucking obvious. Like, it's blatantly obvious. It's not a debate. It's not a discussion. It's not a conversation. It's not a thought. Like, nobody's walking around here confused about who dominates in the physical realm. That's never in question. There are no examples of just like female dominance physically where any men are involved. It just does not happen. Even in the workplace, the women prefer to do like simple, easy jobs that don't require any kind of physicality. Maybe a little bit of attention, mental focus, like mental endurance, but no physicality. Do you think that's because that's just how they're assigned? Like at the most physical positions, you see men in them all the time, everywhere. That's a fact. Fuck your loosely modified rendition or whatever the fuck I just said. Like that's what the hell it is, flat out. Fuck what you talking about. Any kind of counteract to that shit is dead. It's dead. Finito. So, that's the article. I can go on and on about this trans shit in sports. And I'm going to go on about it for a little minute. Because, I really just don't understand. Like, at this point, it's literally like me listening to After Hours by the Weeknd. I've heard it. I know it. I know when the song picks up. I know when the song chills down. Like, I know the lyrics. Like, I've heard it all before. Like, this can't split off into a dimension or a thread, a reality where I don't really know what's going to be said. There's always trans lives matter. There's always somebody trying to take trans rights. First of all, rights ain't even really a thing. Like, without a civilization of people all collectively agreeing on particular, facets of human life, and from a broad general sense, like, that's what that is, but you can't change what is like that. Like, you can't, like, nothing wrong with fantasizing about a world where that's what works. But to try to crossfade that into reality by beating us over the head with it repeatedly until like we can't distinguish actuality from like pretend, to where our consciousness is permanently damaged and handicapped. Like, what's up? This is an open and shut thing. It say more than 20 states. It need to be all 50. It need to be all 50. Every time I get on here and look for an article, it's something about somebody in some transgender athlete in some type of sport. Don't really matter what the sport is. Like, if it's a physical sport, I'm not talking about snooker or fucking darts or fucking bowling or chess. I'm not talking about no shit like that. I'm talking about physical shit like hockey, fucking football, goddamn lacrosse. The most physically intense shit I see women doing is playing soccer and volleyball. Them is the most and perhaps rugby, but I don't even see any women playing cricket. I don't know if they do or don't care really, but it's just, this shit is not, we shouldn't be talking about this. Like, we could easily swap this out with another pressing issue on the docket, blindfolded. We could reach into a bowl and pull out the next topic, and it would be more significant, more productive, and more useful than this shit right here. Like, seriously, why the fuck are we talking about this on a serious level? Why are we giving this any genuine consideration? It just needs to stop suddenly. It just needs to stop suddenly without warning, and we just need to move on. all 50 states need to collectively agree that this shit is ridiculous, is woke, and it is taking opportunities in real time from women. We need to all just agree on that, and whether you disagree or not, well, this is the one where we don't really give a fuck what you think. This is what's happening. You want to do that shit, go somewhere else. Take that shit to Canada. And where the people don't like what you're doing, they can just kill themselves, courtesy of the state. The fuck? I used to talk about how you gotta make a transgender league or whatever, but as I said it, the Daily Wire came out with a trailer with a movie called Lady Ballers about people who do exactly that. And it just ends up being a bunch of fucking men competing against each other. So the idea of any kind of trans anything in athletics is benign. That shit is dead. It's incoherent. It's not feasible. You can't do it. It's dumb. They're dumb. What the fuck? Yet and still, here we are talking about this shit again and again and again. Motherfuckers are doing these demonstrations, like these demonstrations in the education system. Like, you should not be allowed to do this at school. If you do these demonstrations, you can go ahead and do it, but you're done. Once you're done with the demonstration, you're done with attending this school, because we don't need that shit. So if you want to do your demonstration at the risk of your future, you go ahead and demonstrate. Take that shit somewhere else. Trans women in sports with actual women is a horribly, stunningly stupid and bad idea for very, very obvious reasons. Courtesy of Into, what does it mean to be non-binary? So this is going to be an awfully short segment, because I'm going to answer that question. It's like, it means nothing. So that's it. We're done. Move on to the next segment. Yeah, it's all over the headlines now. Henry Kissinger is dead at 100. World-shaping diplomat who was revered and reviled dies at 100. That's unfortunate. May he rip. All right, so yeah. Since I'm unable to end the show for obvious reasons, let's this should be fun. You know what? Yeah. Yep. What it is. All right, here we go. Oh. Hold on. You bitches good. They kind of stale. Fuck. Okay. Here we go. Hold on. These bitches kind of good. They're a little stale. All right, for other time. There's absolutely zero chance that I'm going to hit you off with the same thing I did the past 2 times. But you got to give me a second, because I need to swallow. All right, here we go. For the 4th time. But before I do, here we go for the 5th time. I'm on some bullshit. Identity is ever-changing. It may be difficult to understand where you stand, and that's totally okay. Sexuality and gender is fluid. The most important part is letting yourself explore and learn what you feel the most comfortable with. In this article, we'll tackle what it means to be non-binary and what it entails to be a part of this community. What does being non-binary mean? Non-binary is an umbrella term that refers to those who feel their gender identity doesn't fall under the traditional gender binary. The gender binary is the assumption that there are only 2 genders, male or female. This is, of course, an outdated way of thinking, but is still deeply ingrained in society. Non-binary individuals who don't identify with just male or just female, and some non-binary people don't identify with either gender at all. Many, but not all non-binary people use the pronouns they, them to identify themselves, as it steers away from more gendered pronouns.
Learning that you might be a part of the LGBTQIAFGG5541162BB005413DDF hyphen question mark exclamation point community might be scary at first, but there are many ways to plug yourself into the community and learn to be comfortable with your sexuality.
All right, umbrella term. When I hear that, I think of the Matt Walsh and what the fuck, Addison Rose, I think the name was. And that's exactly what she said. He said, they whatever it is. And well, womanhood is an umbrella term. Umbrella term. So what do you mean, like, umbrella term? Like, what, like, I really don't hear anything described as an umbrella term as often as I do when it comes to this trans shit. Those who feel that the gender identity doesn't fall under the traditional gender binary, like, what does that feel like? How can you feel that? Like, if you have never been the thing that you're feeling, how can you verify that that feeling is legitimate? You've never felt one way and then realized there was something else? Like, you never felt like you had to shit and sat on the pot and like didn't shit? So what, like, you know, like, do you feel like you just never have to shit now because you didn't have to shit this one time? You just think you never have to shit again? Like, because it doesn't fit with the traditional having to take a shit binary? Like, either you have to shit or you don't? Like, you can't feel like you might have to shit and then can't shit? Like, man. If you're curious about how you might identify, here's what you should know about what being pansexual means. Now, before we even do that, I'll tell you what being pansexual means. Firstly, absolutely nothing. Just some made up bullshit that these motherfuckers spew at you and publish articles like this to make small-minded, primitive thinking individuals think this shit is real. This shit is not. This shit is about as real as a $4 bill. Especially when you owe me $5. Okay, so in all seriousness, I think this pansexual shit is like when you can be romantically attracted to anybody, like regardless of gender identity. Like you just like you know. If you was around somebody whose gender was a fucking a fox mixed with a frog, like, you know, as long as they gave you the right vibe, you could procreate with that. You could good with that. History of the word non-binary. Okay, so wait. It said, if you're curious about how you might identify, here's what you should know about being a pansexual means. And it says, history of the word non-binary. So, what, I gotta click this? I gotta click? I'm not clicking that. Fuck that. Although the word non-binary didn't come into existence until later years, the idea of not identifying solely with the male or female gender has been around for years. But ain't that what, that's exactly what it is. Okay. Oh, God. For example, in Native American and Native Hawaiian culture, there is considered to be a third gender. In Native Hawaiian culture, this is called mahu. And in Native American culture, this is called two-spirit. In both instances, gender fluidity is present and might be the earliest non-binary representation we know of. Okay. We don't know of that. How can you, if they didn't know they was non-binary, how could they be non-binary? If non-binary didn't exist, how could they know they were that? where they walk around and say, I'm something, I just can't put my finger on it. Like, I don't feel like I'm this, but I feel like I'm that. Like, and then on top of that, what difference does it make about how you feel? If you got a dick, you a man. It doesn't matter how you feel. You might be a gay man, but you a man. If you got a vagina, you a woman. It's just that. Like, if you got breast and vagina, and you got different, thinner, leaner, more fat distributed, you just built different. Ain't no, like, what's all this classification and all this redefining and shit? Shit we already know. The hell is wrong with you? Dumb son of a blue. The term genderqueer first emerged when American transgender rights activist Ricky Wilchins began using the word in their writing to argue against the discrimination of those who don't identify with binary genders. From then on, a variety of individuals began developing usage of the word, from autism rights movement activist Jim Sinclair coming out as gender neutral to Elisa Ray Shoup being the first person to have a non-binary gender on official U.S. documents. I don't know who any of these fucking people are. The word non-binary itself is often used interchangeably with gender neutral and gender queer. In recent years, schools and workplaces have become more inclusive by asking about pronouns and building gender neutral bathrooms. On dating apps and official documents, we are slowly seeing the increase of a non-binary option when selecting your gender, which has been a relief for many non-binary individuals. What? Okay. Alternative to the word non-binary. Because identity is personal and different people are comfortable using different terms, there are a variety of ways to say the word pansexual, including NB, E-N-B-Y, N-B, like the letter N and the letter B, genderqueer, gender fluid, gender neutral. So, over time, language evolves, and this creates new words derived from a multitude of historical nuances. Labels and terms can also carry connotations, bad or good, which is why one might identify more with one term over the other despite them meaning the same thing. It is also important to note that the word non-binary can encompass asexual, lesbian, and intersex individuals, and so much more. Okay, this shit is getting out of hand. I gotta go get this chicken. Hold on, I ran out of chips. I gotta get this chicken. This is getting out of hand. This is getting out of fucking hand, bro. Like, I swear. These niggas about to make me go order a pizza. Duh. Like, what the fuck? Bro. Okay. So, let's break down the language of this shit. Over time, language evolves, and this creates new words derived from a multitude of historical nuances. While this is like true in a very thinly veiled, like, thread of, this is a possible explanation out of all the possible explanations one could readily think of. But the way they phrase it, it's like over time, language evolved, and this created new words, like. Oh, so that just explains what happened here? Like, okay, so over time, language evolved. Why over time does language evolve and create new words? What was wrong with the old words? Yeah, we generally create new words, but we don't replace words. Like, this NB shit and like, all this shit is new. Like, This ain't really an evolution of language. Like, to evolve, that means you was at a previous form. And I wouldn't even consider these evolutions. These just modifications. Like, say the same thing 12 different ways. Like, E-N-B-Y and N-B. You just spelling out the phonetics of letters. Like, how would you spell the letter N? Like, E-N, like I-N, How would you spell the letter B? Like, not B-Y, it would be B-E-E or something. Like, just like when you look at the dictionary, them little upside down letters and like that pronunciation guide. This ain't an evolution of language. This is a devolution of language. This shit is moving backwards. You got people babbling this shit. Oh. Hurt myself. If you got people running around spewing this shit, Talking about I'm a non-binary. I've met they, thems. No, you haven't. What the fuck even is that? For real. What else they say? Labels and terms can also carry connotations. When people use this vague language, they can also carry. It's like, okay, I understand that they can, but like, are they? Like, I don't care about what could happen. I care about what is happening. To say labels and terms can also carry connotations. So it's like, well, can they also not carry connotations? Can words just be what they are? Like directly? Which is why one might identify more with one term over the other despite them meaning the same thing. So, can carry connotations bad or good. That's pretty much the whole spectrum of connotations. Like, you don't really have a neutral connotation. Like, what the fuck is that? I mean, you like, connotation insists that you like lean in one way or the other with some shit. You know, there's an undertone. Labels can also carry connotations bad or good. So what if your connotation is bad for me but good for you? I just gotta understand your shit without getting mine understood. Like, I would want you to not say it, but I gotta understand your desire to say it. But you don't have to understand like that. You know, that shit is untenable. It don't add up. It's not plausibly. You can't. There's no plausible formula to carry this shit out in the real world. It's not. What else to say? Also important to note that the word non-binary can encompass asexual, lesbian, and intersex individuals and so much more. Like what? So much more? But if non-binary mean not, you don't feel male, you don't feel female, or you feel like a third gender, but you're a lesbian, like, lesbian insists that you were like, it's the female gay. It's the gay for females. Like, you don't call a gay man a lesbian, you call him gay. And you can call women gay too, but it's generally we call them lesbians. You know? So, like, how is that non-binary? You a non-binary lesbian? So you a maybe girl, guy, or something else that's into women. Why ain't that many non-binary men? And if it is, they just look like women. How much more of this shit? Oh my God. These niggas is wild. All this shit. What not to call non-binary people. All these articles telling you what to do. What you don't call people. Like, man, I don't give a fuck about who you even are. I don't give a damn that you got out of bed this morning. Like, fuck your morning coffee. For real. What not to call you. What not to call. I don't even know you. I don't care about you. You are noisy and petulant. Sit the fuck down and shut up sometime. And maybe I pretend to give half a fuck about whatever it is you belly aching about right now.
Hateful words that refer to the non-binary community should always be erased from conversation and speech. The word non-binary has gone through many definitions and usages, but negative connotations and stereotypes remain. Offensive words such as the F-slur should be avoided at all costs as they are derogatory.
Well, guess what? Fags call each other fags. Sorry. I've been around what you would call fags, and they call each other fags directly to their faggot face. That's what they do. And you can say don't use that word, but it's just like with nigga. Like you can't tell black people not to call each other niggas. So how you gonna tell the gays not to call each other fags? That's just how that works. You don't gotta be exclusively gay in order to use that word. Like if gay people say it, it's not a problem. Just like if black people say nigga, it's not a problem. Let a non-brown person say nigga, and that motherfucker stands to ruin his entire life, even today. Or you gotta give some half-ass apology or explain why you said it and how the words you use affected the lives and daily routines of people who you don't even know and don't even live in the same state or region as you. You affected their life somehow because they had to hear you say a word that they don't like. Man, that's just so life-affecting. Yep. Affect your life. Shit good as fuck. That's a whole chicken. Nah, I can't do this shit no more. Next segment. All right, I'm currently scanning this shit from what appears to be called Meow, MEAWW. Disney admits its new content may not be appealing to audiences as it delays $330 million Albatross again. Okay, so I guess that's cool or whatever that they admit it, but at this point, who cares? Like admitting it, I guess that's the first step to, you know, I guess solving the problem, but it's a real fucking obvious problem, like real obvious. The Walt Disney Company has admitted in its public financial filing for the fiscal quarter ending in September that its new progressive content may not be appealing to the audience, as is evident from the production giant's reported $1 billion loss on its last 4 high-profile releases. God damn! $4 billion? Wow. I mean, I said 4 billion. $1 billion loss. That's huge. I don't give a fuck how you skin that cat. That's a big loss for anybody. Per Daily Mail in its filing, Disney acknowledged that the company's political views and the political correctness it wants to promote may not match with the demand among the audience. What the fuck you mean may not match? Like, people are shouting this from the fucking rooftops, bro. We've been saying we hate this shit for a long time. I don't know what kind of fringe demographic you're trying to magnify and inflate to make it seem like there's a demand for this shit. There isn't. The political correctness you want to promote is that woke shit, and it's gay. Like nobody want to fucking hear that shit. Shit is patently dumb. As an effect of the risk relating to misalignment with public and consumer tastes and preferences for entertainment, Disney also postponed the release of its $330 million Snow White reboot by a year. Recently, the star of the reboot, Snow White, Rachel Zegler's comments sparked this controversy when she criticized the original 1937 version and said the modern version will be more progressive. Good lord, these motherfuckers seem like they're being progressive. Terming Rachel Zegler sparked controversy after terming the Snow White story as weird. In the SEC filing, Disney admits that their success depends on, quote, the ability to consistently create compelling content. The report further warns that profits dwindle when the makers do not achieve sufficient consumer acceptance. Well, duh. That's not groundbreaking. That's not, what the fuck? That's basic. That's obvious as hell. But if we can't create content, which is what our business is based on, that we don't achieve sufficient consumer acceptance. Like, this is that burying shit under language. Like, another George Carlin reference said, greedy, well-fed white people have created their own language to bury their sins. Disney admits that their success depends on the ability to consistently create compelling content. Like, making good movies. Making good movies. Ability to create 6 words, you can cut that shit in half. Making good movies. The report further warned that profits dwindle when the makers do not achieve sufficient consumer acceptance. When the movies suck. When the movies suck. That's what you could say. In the report, the company added further. consumers' perceptions of our positions on matters of public interest, including our efforts to achieve certain of our environmental and social goals, often differ widely and present risks to our reputation and brand. Hmm. Okay, so basically they're saying the way people think of us and what we do is fucking up the money flow. The way people see what we do is going to ruin this business. Don't need all that language to say that obvious shit. Why is Snow White reboot delayed? I'll tell you before I even read it. Because it fucking sucks. It exists in a vacuum. There's no substance. It's so progressive. You progress beyond having anything valuable in it. It's no story to tell. It's just, I don't like this shit about the story, so I'm gonna make my own version and use that name and blah 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 blah. Recently, Disney announced the upcoming live-action reboot of one of its classics had been delayed by a full year owing to the SAG-AFTRA strike. It is scheduled to be released in March 2025. No, what they can really do is just don't schedule it to release. That would be ideal. Leave that shit in production indefinitely. No one wants to see this. No one asked for this. I promise you. I promise you. However, the Hollywood strike is probably not the only proponent for the delay of the film, as ever since its announcement, the film has been dallying with controversies related to its contents, which has been termed as woke by several industry experts. Well, why do you think that is? You guys want to quote the experts any other fucking time when the experts say it's woke? God damn it, it's woke, and it is woke. What the fuck? If you're gonna make a reboot and change the story, it's not a reboot. It's a upgrade. It's just like an iOS update. Like that's basically what you're doing. So I don't like. Why do you want to make a woke movie? Like what when you planning this shit out? What demographic are you targeting? Like who are you making this movie for? Like, do you want people to hate it? Is that the goal? Do you want people to hate the shit? It sure seems like you want people to hate the shit because it's real hateable. The decision to postpone came after Zegler, who plays the titular princess, termed the plot as weird and branded the prince as a stalker. Talking about the difference between the modern reboot's content, and Zegler told Variety in an interview, I just mean that it's no longer 1937. She's not going to be saved by the prince. She's not going to be dreaming about true love. Why? Because that made her happy? First of all, it's a fucking fictional tale. It's not even real. What do you mean? Just because it's no longer 1937, she's not going to be saved by the prince. Like, then what good is it? Like the story is about a rescue. Like some women do dream about true love. Just because your ass broken down and destroyed and you've given up on love, don't mean that that's the attitude for all motherfuckers. Like just because you have no grit, no determination, or no personality worth enduring for any kind of potential outcome, that don't necessarily translate over to the rest of us. You know? Fuck. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be, and she was fearless, brave, fair, brave, and true. Like, what the fuck? Okay, fine. Then call it something else. Call it something else. Don't call it Snow White because that's not what Snow White dreamt of. Don't call it Snow White and then change the plot of the story and then be like, oh, we lost $330 million on this shit. We're not appealing to the consumer interest. Like, no shit, Sherlock. No fucking shit. Because the customers ain't interested in no leader, heroine, Snow White. Like, nobody wants that. Who the fuck asked for that? That's what I'm saying. What demographic are you targeting? No one is waking up complaining about the lack of the Snow White reboot. That doesn't get anybody's nipples hard. Like I guarantee you. The 22-year-old star famed for her role in West Side told at the Disney D23 Expo in California in September 2022, the original cartoon came out in 1937 and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird, weird. So we didn't do that this time.
Weird, weird. Shut the fuck up, man. A guy who literally stalks her, like, oh my god. Like, oh my god. I know he like rescues her and everything, but he like stalks her before he rescues her. And, like if he's stalking her, he probably has mom issues, and you don't have to tolerate that. You are strong. You can be alone for the rest of your life and never have children and everything because it's so empowering. It's so empowering to do nothing with your life and take vacations and fly on planes and walk around in high heels until your knees break down. So much fun. Single and lonely, yeah. We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because we cast a guy in the movie referring to Andrew Burnett. And if it's anything like the Barbie movie, it's just like all their movies are just gonna be like feminist propaganda. Like every time you got these vocal ass lead roles with women, these vocal ass women in these lead roles, this is the shit you get. This is what you hear. Like they get power and abuse that shit. And I say, well, if women ran the world, there wouldn't be any wars. Like, what the fuck do you mean? We would never not be in war. You can't even put multiple women in the same room most of the time and have them agree on some shit. The fuck you mean it wouldn't be no wars? The only reason there wouldn't be no wars is because y'all wouldn't be the one fighting them. The fuck? They also had to remove himself for the bad taste of the mouth of online critic and one of the stuff. Yeah, I mean, oh my god, like, I don't even care enough about this shit to be disparaging. Like this, I'm glad Disney lose the money. Like it took $1 billion for you motherfuckers to realize that this shit is trash. Trash. Y'all used to make great shit. Like I could watch The Lion King right now. I could watch 101 Dalmatians right now. I could watch the Aristocats right now. I could watch the Jungle Book right now. Right fucking now. What else? I think there's a couple other Disney movies. See the Lion King sequel and shit. Beauty and the Beast. All dogs go to heaven. All that shit. I seen it all. That was great. It was great storytelling. It's another one I'm thinking. I can't think of it right now. It's another one, but yeah, all that shit. All that shit's classic, man. It was great fucking storytelling. It was captivating. It was interesting, like for children and adults. Like they know how to walk Aladdin. They know how to walk that line. And not they're not walking it anymore. They're stepping clearly over it. And now that all their movies are flopping, they want to publicly admit it. Like, what does that do? Like, y'all knew this. Y'all already knew this. Y'all knew this shit was whack. You just thought you could jam it down people's throats with marketing and advertising and all this pushing this shit. You thought you could just make people like it if you showed it to them thousands of fucking times every single day. And you can't. Just nobody wants to hear this shit. Nobody wants to see this shit. Nobody wants to engage in this shit. It's not engaging. It's horse shit. It's nonsense. But I mean, hopefully the silver lining in this is that we actually start getting some quality content from Disney instead of this bullshit, this woke ass agenda, this feminist propaganda. We go back to telling good stories for a family audience. That's what Disney was great at. They veered off that path. Now nobody gives a shit about Disney. They became great at one thing and they expanded in the wrong direction. I'm so happy they lost it. Maybe this is an indication of the cultural shift that we desperately need. Desperately. The culture is poisoned. Way beyond the black community. Like the culture has been tainted. And it's up to us to fix it. Do the right thing. When you see Disney coming out with this woke shit, garbage, insult to cinema, don't Go see it. Do not spend money on that shit. Continue to hit their pockets. You see what happened to Bud Light. You see what happened to Target. When you keep forcing that shit, your sales take a hit. Now it's time for you to suck some dick. Time for you to take the brunt of the shit. That's when the consumers have the power. Because you're trying to force feed them instead of giving them what they want, what they will consume. You're trying to make them consume what you want them to consume, and they will not. And they shouldn't. So good fucking shit, Disney. Way to drop $1 billion on your last 4 projects. You know, everybody else got paid, but you didn't. And I hope this trend continues amongst animators and all this little children's movie wannabe ass shit. All these movies, I hope it continues because that's a step in the right direction when you start to seeing it happening frequently. We need it bad. We needed it yesterday, for real. That's the show. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. Until next time, I'll holler.